morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so very much for joining us this morning. We hope that you enjoyed the photos of our community while you were waiting for the event to start this morning. And that background music was our student a cappella group Major Minors. So hope you enjoyed that as well. My name is Jennifer Webb, and I am very happy to be the Director of Enrollment Management and Financial Aid here at Flint Hill. And we're grateful that you're spending part of your morning here with us for our virtual middle school information session. In terms of what you can expect today, you'll hear from our head of school, Patrick McConnett. You'll also hear from our middle school director, Brian Lamont, and he'll share more with you about how the middle school program here at Flint Hill is different. You'll also hear from many of our middle school students and parents that are joining us to share their experiences with you. They're also here to answer any questions that you might have of them. And then finally, we'll conclude the program with Jordy Izzard, our middle school officer, sharing more with you about next steps for learning more about Flint Hill and for applying to Flint Hill. In terms of communication throughout the event today, I mentioned that we'd love to answer your questions, both the parents, the students, Patrick, Brian, Jordy, and I. So please do feel free to use the chat feature. As you have questions, as you have comments, please go ahead and drop them into the chat, and we will be sure to answer them for you. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn it over to our head of school, who leads us in our core values every single day and helps us stay focused on the long game, Patrick McConnett.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. Appreciate it. And thank you all for joining us here this morning. I know it's a busy Tuesday morning, and we're really excited to have your continued interest in Flint Hill and our middle school. I have the joy of being new to Flint Hill myself this year. My family and I transitioned here from the West Coast. We were in Southern California, where I was a head of school out there. I have a current kindergartner and a current fourth grader. And I know exactly the seats that you are in right now, as we were in that spot a little over a year ago. And I can only say that this is a really warm and welcoming community, and we felt that on a personal level. So appreciate your interest here today. I'm going to go ahead and speak a little bit around our core values. That's my job as our head of school, to kind of keep us pointed to our true north. And I know Jen's going to advance on some slides here today. One of the things that really brought me and my family here to Flint Hill is the real recognition that, unlike a lot of great independent schools out there, this is a place that always enjoys moving forward. And especially over the course of the last few years, where the pandemic has thrown the whole world into a little bit of a loop here, Flint Hill is a place that always puts its core values and its student-centric needs at the center of every decision. And so as we're emerging from this new time with new leadership and great opportunity in front of us, I continue to keep our community's focus on those core values for who we are, what we do, and how we can best support students going forward. So unlike a lot of other really great independent schools out there, and I'm sure you're looking at them, we're not a place that's just going to stand still. We're not a place that's going to pat ourselves on the back and say, well, this is the way that we've always done it, and therefore we need to stay that way. But rather, in keeping that mission, vision, and core values for our students at the center of all we do, we're able to adjust accordingly in a really fast-paced and dynamic world. So Jen, why don't you take us through to that main core values slide as we get looking here. Part of being a JK through 12 school is really being able to build on these experiences at a developmentally appropriate way. And so what this looks like here in our middle school is different appropriately from what it looks like in our lower and our upper schools. And so Brian, I know we'll speak a little bit more later on about how that experience comes to bear. But when I think about our core values, these 5 statements that you see on your screen right now: respect and value all equally, lead and support with compassion, act with integrity, blaze the trail, and imagine what's possible. The English teacher in me, and that's where I started out in the classroom, loves these because they are action statements. They are not just 4 words on a wall, but rather an expectation, not only for our students, but our faculty and staff, as well as our families, as we build that partnership between school and community. And so I'm going to take us through each one of these core values one by one and share what I see that in action here in our middle school. Respect and value all equally. This is a huge part of our middle school experience at a time when kids developmentally all want to feel like they are a part of a whole and sometimes don't always want to stand out. We have to recognize the inherent differences that make each of our students special, unique, and that they bring to bear a really great classroom discussion, and also how we support the world around us. So, one of the things that I've really enjoyed in seeing in our middle school over the course of this year is that the ways in which we respect and value all equally are incredibly important. Specifically, when we say that we respect and value all equally, it's not we are respecting everyone as equals, but rather knowing every single child for their own strengths, areas of development, interests, passions, you name it. But the equally really underscores how we respect one another. That we as a school, through advisories, through great teachers, through our counseling programs, you name it, are going to put 110% effort behind the respect, value, and support of every single student. So that could be for a shortstop on the baseball team. It could be a child who is dabbling in the arts. It could be a family who is going through some transitions and needs some additional supports. It is not that everybody gets the same, but rather everybody gets the same amount of support, meaning wholehearted every single step of the way. And in middle school, at a time where we're pushing some of those boundaries, that's really necessary and impactful here for our community. Let's move to the next one, Jen. Lead and support with compassion. Compassion is not always a word that is often associated with middle school students. This is the messy middle, as we like to talk about it, where students are pressing their boundaries, learning their own viewpoints, connecting with others, and appropriately building their own levels of responsibility and ownership in their learning experience. We revel in that and recognize that there's going to be times in which our students are trying and they fall short of a particular goal. There's going to be times where our students, by the very nature of the way their brains are wired, are not always their best selves. And how we pick them up, hold them accountable, and recognize that as a part of a small, tightly knit community, compassion is going to be at the core of what we do. So, how do we empathize? How do we put ourselves in other people's shoes? And the ways in which we do that in our middle school in particular really are integrated through our advisory program and our counseling supports. So, as kids are working through the very natural and normal ways of being, 13 and 14 years old, making sure that we've got the supports and the eyes and ears of adults around them to be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm not sure if you were your best self right there. How can we support you in the future from not necessarily making the same decision twice? Because the communal impact of those things can be impactful. And also, how do we praise the positive? Seeing a student that is out there being an upstander as opposed to a bystander in a social experience or in a classroom project, that's hugely important for us as well. So that compassion, especially at the middle school, is key. Act with integrity. One of the things that I love about our middle school is its intentional design around having a big, beautiful space specifically for our 7th and 8th graders. We have a JK through 6 lower school program and a 9 through 12 upper school program. And our middle school specifically is designed around taking our lower school students, as well as any new students whom we add here through this admissions process, and preparing them for an outstanding upper school program. And part of that experience in the middle school is a gradual easing of freedoms and responsibilities for our middle school students. And it comes with it a high bar, a sense of accountability, a sense of integrity, of recognizing that if you're going to have some free time here to do your homework, to work on a project, to do a group activity, you name it, that these are going to be times as we let the reins out a little bit that we want you to act your best and really be prepared for the necessary freedoms and responsibilities that you're going to have at the upper school level. So integrity is key. If we make a mistake, we ask our students to own it. We work in partnership with the students and the families to be able to learn from those opportunities rather than coming at things straightly from a punitive or a disciplinary standpoint. And so building that integrity with that long game in mind, as we oftentimes talk about here at Flint Hill, is a huge important step for our kids. And we find that those students who have had that foundational learning through our middle school program are uniquely prepared for success in high school and beyond, because that's that point in which they're appropriately pressing those boundaries and learning along the way. And so integrity is going to be key. Imagine what's possible. I love this because oftentimes in middle school, it's all about feeling like you're fitting in with the crowd. And we want our students to feel like they have the opportunity to consider what else is out there. Meaning, how can I try something new? How can I push myself out in my comfort zone while also having the necessary safety nets and supports to grow as an adolescent child? And so, one of the areas in which I've really loved seeing this amongst our students has been the ways in which they are connecting with service and outside learning for the world around them. So often independent schools can be insular, feel like a bubble. And we've really deliberately tried to get our middle school students out in the world, making an impact for others. So whether it's we take specific days in which we get our students off campus and into the city, or doing some community service activities, or witnessing and experiencing different perspectives in museums or other outreach programs, that's hugely important because it allows our students who, again, biologically are wired to be very, very, very self-aware and self-conscious, but to be able to think about the perspectives of others and imagine, wow, if I'm experiencing this, what is it that they are experiencing, and how can I be an effective and ethical leader in the world beyond? Those are going to be really important skills to have. And so that sometimes forced, hey, we're going to get out there and do something a little bit different and be curious around these things, is a really important experience at the middle school level to broaden those horizons for our students every step of the day, every step of the way. And I appreciate the dedication and the earnestness of our middle school faculty, staff, and advisors to push those kids along in only healthy ways to experience what else is out there too. And lastly, one of my favorites, we're Huskies. We pull the sled together. We really talk about this, not just as a mascot, but as an ethos for our school. What ways in which are we blazing a trail from our student body? And in the middle school level, one of the ways in which I really see this happening on a daily basis is through our activities blocks. In middle school, I know we'll talk about it later this morning. All of our students are required to participate in athletics. So even if you are not the most athletic student in the world, how can you be a part of a team? Maybe dip your toe in that water, literally, as we're starting our swim program here this winter season. How can you try something new? And maybe you discover a lifelong passion that'll keep you happy and healthy. And maybe you say, wow, I never want to do that again. And that's okay. But you cannot have that unless you are willing in a very safe and supportive environment to step out there, to blaze your trail in a club, an athletic activity, an arts performance, you name it. This is the time in which our students need to feel the active support and the active opportunity to be able to stand out on their own. And that I think is a really exciting place because it's this unique juxtaposition for middle school students. Like I said, they're wired to be a pack. And where can we say, no, I'm ready. I'm gonna strike out on my own. I might fail, and that's okay, but I'm going to be myself and really take these steps to make an impact on my community, in the world around, and to build my own sense of self within these areas too. So wherever possible, we really do try to focus on our students being themselves as well as a part of a whole, and how they blaze a trail for us as a school and moving forward. So there it is. That's our core values. That's what we do, and sometimes how it fits in here in our middle school level. And I am so excited for your excitement here to consider Flint Hill for the next steps of your educational journey. I know I'm going to turn it over here to Brian in just a minute. But before I do, please know we are here for you. You've got the best admissions team around here shepherding you through this process. Please do not hesitate to reach out with any questions along the way. Thanks so much. Brian, what you got for us, bud?
Was I supposed to prepare something for today? No, I'm happy to. Thank you, Patrick. Happy to build on a lot of the great points you made about. Sounds like you actually know middle school age students, which is awesome.
I'm bracing for it with my fourth grader as she's getting ready to come up.
Yeah, exactly. So I will. Let me bring a presentation up. Okay.
You're good, Brian.
All right, great. Well, welcome. Yeah, to kind of piggyback on some of Patrick's points and do a little bit of a deeper dive in our middle school program. Yeah, really excited to have so many of you here today, and I'll speak for a little bit about to give you an overview of our middle school program, and then we're blessed to have some current and unpaid parents here to help give you their thoughts and answer some questions, and then some students as well. And I'm Brian Lamont. I'm grateful to have spent a large chunk of time here. This is year 22 for me at Flint Hill, which means I'm both very old and have had the opportunity to see Flint Hill through a variety of lenses. So I spent a chunk of my career in the upper school and was the upper school head. I think perhaps the most important role I've spent here is as a parent. I've been a middle school parent 3 times, and when Patrick refers to it as the messy middle, that's certainly an accurate piece. And there's really no place I'd rather be during this crucial and sometimes very challenging period of life. And as Patrick touched on, part of what we need to do is prepare our students for our upper school program. That's not all we do, but that is a big part of it. As one benefit of being part of a JK-12 school is that there are certainly certain through lines, and there are real advantages to coming into Flint Hill in middle school as part of that pathway to upper. So part of what we do for all of our students is that, and what I love about this age level is that aspect of real academic skills and academic training that is necessary as they move on to a very demanding and awesome upper school program, and also all the other aspects of kind of developing as a responsible young adult, how the classes flow from middle to upper. And we do have department chairs that oversee both the middle and upper school programs in various strands, math, science, English, and so on, which ensures that what we're doing at this level flows nicely into upper school. A huge part of what we do is help students understand themselves as learners, what works well for me and what doesn't, sort of trying on these different skills and strategies, both in terms of whether it's in their writing or whether they're learning how to study, all those pieces. We spend a lot of time at this level focusing on how to advocate, and that transition, that really messy transition from lower school, where oftentimes as parents we have to be the ones kind of advocating because our kids really aren't ready yet. And during 7th and 8th grade, there are plenty of kids who aren't ready for all of it, but we need to help scaffold them and ensure that they get that practice and feedback. So when they get into our upper school, that's a much smoother process for them. Students here prepared in terms of our school culture and core values, as Patrick had touched on, our use of technologies and Apple Distinguished School throughout, ways in which we leverage the MacBook as a tool for learning. Again, connecting to our core values, that kind of practice with curiosity and innovative thinking that we do so much of here at this level, that does prepare them for upper school and that flow. And as parents, kind of getting a sense of how of who we are as a school family, and how parents can be engaged and how to play your role. And that's a real tricky thing about middle school also. Whether you're figuring out how to utilize the open grade book and how much to be involved and how much to kind of trust and verify, and all those ways to be involved even more broadly at the school. Starting in middle school paves the way for that for the following 4 years as well. But our middle school is not about a pre-high school. It's about doing what and being who students need at this unique period of life. And I believe there is no other period of life except perhaps ages 0 to 2 in which there is such dramatic change going on in brains and bodies. And the way we kind of overview how we kind of try to meet the unique developmental needs of young adolescents, impactful relationships, innovative and reflective teaching, and intentional curriculum. In terms of the relationship piece, which is, I think we all need to be around people who we feel like care about us and know us and accept us. I don't think that's ever more true than at the middle school level. We need to develop connections and trust so that we can stretch and support students in the ways that they need. We'll talk a little more how we leverage technology in the classroom, the way our teachers are really, focused on how students learn and not just about their own subject, and what our program looks like. So how we structure our academic program, and so much of where learning is non-academic, from a DEI perspective, to all those pieces of time management, study skills, making friends, having friendships change, all those things that kind of go into meeting the needs of kids at these ages. So in terms of relationship building, some that's accomplished by, we have the advantage to having relatively small grades and classes. So we average about 100 students per grade in 7th and 8th grade in our Peterson Middle School building here. That number fluctuates perhaps by grade level of each year, and we do add chunks of students. 7th is a bigger entry point for us than 8th, but we typically have double digits of new students at those grade levels as well. Our teacher-student ratio, which we're able to keep very low, and a maximum of 18 students in a classroom, ensures that those connections can happen naturally in the classroom. Every teacher can see and know where every student is at a given point. And a big part of those connections is through our advisory program, which is really the foundation, I believe, of everything else we do. All of our advisors are trained in developmental designs, and we start our day circled up as in this picture. We spend the first 20 minutes of every day. The advisor, again, it's a little bit different from the homeroom when I was a kid growing up. Again, we start with a very intentional program that is designed to greet and affirm each student as they come in, and we have all of our advisors follow the same lesson plan every morning, and it helps students build relationships, develop social skills, and really paves the way for their academic learning, all by starting their day together. And again, this is something everyone undergoes training on, and we implement in a consistent way, and as a vehicle by which much of the rest of our program flows. In terms of our teaching, as I said, our focus is on how students learn, and so especially at the middle school level, while we do have 60-minute periods, there's not a classroom in which a teacher is standing at the front of the room talking for 60 minutes. Those things don't work for middle school age students. We have a series of engaging and interactive activities built into each lesson, so that students are actively involved, have opportunities to, some of it being social, but they're able to kind of connect with the activities and keeps them engaged in a very dynamic classroom. Our teachers model the same reflective and growth mindset that we're trying to teach and coach in our students. Again, we're constantly, as Patrick said, this is a place that doesn't stand still. So we're not of the mindset that if it's worked in my classroom 25 years ago, it must still work now. We're constantly examining everything we do and considering ways to tweak and improve the experience of our students. Again, we do leverage MacBooks in our classrooms, which is utilized differently in different classes, but it's used with purpose. So it's not as if, yes, we're going to teach our class and everyone has a MacBook. It's that we're going to specifically design certain activities so that students are using these as a learning tool. And other times we're closing them up because we're going to have a discussion or a debate, and we don't need screens in front of our faces. And what we teach is important, as is how we teach. So we do, in terms of a purely academic side, this is that kind of that balance in middle school of some very important academic skills and skill training, and it's that we want all of our kids to kind of come out of our program ready for upper school in many ways, and we want to include elements of choice as kids are figuring out what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, a chance to kind of try things on in a very low stakes place. We do offer honors level courses in math and English and language. All of our students also take science and history and fine arts. Within fine arts, they have a choice of several different strands. So students can take visual art, they can take theater, or they can take music. And we have 4 different music groups: band, choir, orchestra, and percussion. And all of our students can also elect to take something else. So many students may choose as their elective one of our innovation courses, whether it's makers, robotics, broadcasting. They may also take like a math counts or a Kurtaman. We've designed it so they can, some of these are part-time classes, so they can mix and match and really explore, kind of balance with study hall also for those who want or need that. That's another aspect of figuring out what works for them and what doesn't and what they need. Languages, we offer a choice of French, Latin, or Spanish. It's also possible for students to double up if they want to. And again, what we're doing in all of our classes and within these academic strands is also focusing on curiosity and creativity, and the non-purely academic pieces that are so important, that we work on scaffolding those skills for our students about time management and study skills. So here's where we start, giving them an assignment that it's Monday, but it's not due till Friday. And then we kind of structure that time for them and give them a little bit of room to kind of try it on their own. And many times they're stumbling with that and figuring out, gee, it doesn't work when I wait until the last minute. And that is some of the really important learning we want to happen here before they kind of get into higher stakes. And we do have an open grade book in both middle and upper schools in which students and parents can can see what's in the grade book at any point. And again, one of the things that's really important that you'll hear me say time and time again is that the grades are not the point at this level. But we do think that that's an important element of that academic training and trying to do their best, and kind of transparency of what's in the grade book. And it's also important for our parents to be able to trust and verify, so that you can, allow your kid to have some independence and kind of practice doing their homework in a different way, or you want to, take a more hands-off approach. And that's a lot easier to do if you can also kind of see how things are going. And other non-academic aspects that are so important for young adolescents, we have a wide strand of wellness programming that we, some of it is baked into advisory, and some with bringing in either outside presenters or kind of other blocks, both looking at balance and mental health, education around substances and sexuality. We partner with the Social Institute, which is an organization that does interactive lessons around responsible use of technology. As Patrick noted, we do some off-campus pieces where we take advisory groups into DC for scavenger hunts, which is some of the kind of team building components. Service is an important part. In 7th grade, we do a full day off campus. In 8th grade, it's more of an independent service project that they present on, that kind of mirrors more of what they see in the upper school. And all of our students as 8th graders do a capstone presentation, which, if you imagine, kind of a TEDx-like, although it ranges because we have a wide range of students. So but we're really focused on students kind of doing a written presentation and then delivering one that is on a topic that is meaningful to them, which can be, a real wide range of things. And also helps them practice and develop public speaking and presentation skills. And another aspect of the program that Patrick mentioned is we do, all of our students do participate in athletics. This kind of takes the place of physical education for us. It really does involve a lot of different pieces. So some of it is social. So a chance to be, again, connect with a different group of students around a common interest, a chance to try and explore. And again, of my 3 kids, I had 1 who was very athletic and loved it, and 2 who were not athletic and still loved it here. And so, it's our teams are coached by our teachers, and we have a wide range, and it's just an extension of the rest of our program. But they do compete against other schools. It is baked into our school days, so practices end by 3:30 when we have pickup. And we do have some games against other schools in our area. And so that's the last piece there, kind of a big overview of our middle school program. And now we get a chance to kind of hear more directly from those who are experiencing it on a daily basis. And so in the next phase of this morning, I'm grateful to have a few current parents with us today, Kristen Mager, Brian Willits, and Melissa Ryan, who are going to kind of share a little bit about their experience, and we'll have a little bit of time for you to have some Q&A with them. So if we could get started, I will maybe ask each of you to just introduce yourself, maybe how long you've been at Flint Hill, and either what brought you here or what keeps you here. If you want to share something weird about yourself, you can certainly do that, but that's not technically part of the program. So who wants to be a hero here? I see on my screen, I see Kristen most directly, and you look eager to start. So I'm going to take advantage of that. And will you get us started? Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, I am Kristen Mager. I have one daughter. She is in 8th grade, and this is our second year at Flint Hill. And obviously, the fact that I am joyously participating in this means that we are so happy. We decided to make the transition from Fairfax County Public Schools, and for a whole host of reasons, just lots of changes, and really wanted an opportunity for our daughter to have the very best academics, social, and an environment that she could really thrive in. And we already had several friends who had children that had gone through Flint Hill or are currently students at Flint Hill. So we had some background knowledge, and it has just been wonderful. It has been a tremendous experience, and we're just so happy. And my daughter loves it. My husband's happy. I'm happy. So it's all good. We are looking forward to high school.
All right. Thank you, Kristen. And Melissa, you want to go next?
Hi, everyone. Melissa Ryan. I have two daughters, an 8th grader and a 3rd grader, and this is our second year at Flint Hill. We also came from Fairfax County Public Schools. We were really excited about Flint Hill. First of all, our admission process was great. And we were applying online. We couldn't visit the schools because it was still COVID time. So we actually, came to this school without even touring it, which is a weird thing to do. It was a weird experience, but I will say everybody at the school, both the lower and the middle schools, made a huge effort to make our kids and our family feel really welcome, which is really hard to do in that environment, I have to say. And the kids adjusted really well. The middle school has been fantastic for our older daughter. We're huge fans. And one of my favorite things about the middle school program is the required sports, which she was not excited about, but I was, because otherwise I know she wouldn't opt into a sport. So that part of the program is amazing. But of course, we've had a great experience with the academics, all of the teachers. I don't have anything negative to say. We've had a great experience in both schools, so I can speak to both schools so far. But all positive things, but happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, we do appreciate the positive sharing, and this wouldn't be a great venue for the negative ones. Obviously, we do believe in being genuine and transparent, and this is, as we say to our students, and none of us are going to be perfect, and one of the things. Sorry to jump in and take over here. One of the things that I've always appreciated about being here, and that we try to model for our students as well, and Patrick kind of touched on, is when we're going to examine things closely, we're going to own it when we fall short, and we're going to look at making things better, rather than trying to keep things perfect. So Brian, sorry, I jumped in before you got a chance.
No problem. Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Willits. This is my first year at the school. I've got 3 kids. Patrick is in 7th grade, and I've got 2 in the lower school. We absolutely love it too. And I think the thing that I'd hit on to start before we get into any questions and answers is just what Patrick, the head of schools, said at the start of this, is that the school really tailors itself. Every student's unique, and the student tailors its academic, curriculum, everything, social, from top to bottom to each individual student. I don't think Brian Lamont got a summer vacation at all, because we had extended conversations with him about where Patrick was going to be placed in math, what he was going to be doing in English. Long conversations just over the summer to get him placed in the right class with the right kids so that he was challenged and off on the right start academically. But they also did that socially too. And just the second piece about that is with my sixth grader, actually, so not middle school. But we got an email from the head of the math department in October, maybe a month and a half into school. And they said, hey, Jackson's in honors math, but we think we need to challenge him more. And there's other kids that we think need to be challenged more too. So we're going to start another math class that's going to be sort of pre-algebra for seventh graders. Do you think he'd be okay doing that? And that kind of blew me away. Not only the experience with Brian over the summer, just really working on that placement, but then even after school started, a month and a half in, another call pretty quickly from the math department chair saying, hey, look, we got a bunch of kids and we think we can start a new seventh grade level pre-algebra class for your sixth grader. If you guys want to do it, let's do it. And we said, well, yeah, let's do it. And that's what's really neat about the school academically, is they tailor it unbelievably, that I don't think there's much flexibility from other schools. So that's my intro. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. I have some other questions I can ask parents to get talking about, but if this is a good time, if you have, as other prospective parents on this call, and I can't see all of you, so you're welcome. Yeah, you can do a raised hand. You can add questions into the chat, and I can monitor from there. I see there's a question from FPN, whoever just raised your hand. Sorry, let me look at my.
That's me. Yep. Sorry, it doesn't show properly. I'm Felicia. We just moved here from Miami, and my son was in private school. Now he's in Fairfax public school, and it was interesting to hear from you that you pulled your kids out of Fairfax, because we're kind of struggling with what to do, and that's why we were looking at Flint Hill to go back to private, because we're struggling with the class size. And I'm just curious, what was the main driver for you guys coming out of Fairfax public to go to private?
I'm happy to go first. There were, obviously it was a complicated time. I think lots of families in this area, across the country, during the lockdown, and it was just a complicated time. And so it made us really examine the school system in a different way. But the class size was a huge part of it for us. The class size and the school size where we live. Our daughter would have been going to a very large middle school and a huge high school. And for us, we just decided we don't want her to get lost in the shuffle. And this is not a commentary on Fairfax County public school teachers or anything like that. But if you've got 32, 35 kids in a classroom, or you've got 15 in a classroom, there's simply no comparison as to what the children are able to absorb and the focus that the teachers can give to the students, not only academically, but socially, the way that they can interact and build relationships. So the class size was a huge, huge part. And unfortunately, I don't know kind of how Fairfax County can really address that in a way that that is helpful, because obviously you can't just throw up a new public school over the summer. So class size was a huge thing. And again, the ability of teachers to really connect with students in a way that we knew would not be available to her. The thought of also just my little girl, sending her when she was going into seventh grade into the size of the middle school building, I just thought, oh, I'm not ready for that. So class size was huge for us.
That's good feedback. Because that's where kind of our struggle was. He was at 18 kids in Miami, and now it was supposed to be 25, ended up being 32.
Yeah.
And that's what we're struggling with. And even with the best teacher, right, at 32.
Absolutely. Again, no commentary at all on the teachers. They do. I'm still actually very close friends with some of my daughter's teachers from her elementary school, but even her elementary school was larger than my high school. So it amazes me the difference in the relation, in how it works at Flint Hill versus in public school.
And I can echo that coming from Fairfax as well. Class size was definitely a factor for both of our daughters. And what I found at Flint Hill, which is pretty amazing, is even at the middle school, all of these teachers know my daughter. It's her second year there. They made a huge effort, of course, when we were new. Coming in seventh grade was a pretty big entry point, like Brian said. And there were a lot of new students last year, which I think helped her because a lot of people kind of fled the public schools during COVID. But this has been a great experience because this faculty, they all know my daughters, both in the lower school and the upper school, or middle school, sorry, which is really impressive. And that kind of individualized attention is something you really can't get anywhere else. And to me, that's worth it. And it's been a great experience for them, spending 2 years or a year and a half virtual school for them, especially my younger one who finished kindergarten online. The social piece was really important, and I think they've made a huge effort, and it's very much noticed by both the kids and the parents to get these kids kind of back to whatever's normal now, and not staring at Google Classroom all day. But that was a big challenge for my kids too, is because they were online for a year and a half, and having them come into this environment because it was smaller than a public school, I think was a huge benefit to them. So class size and the type of attention your kids get, and the parents as well, is pretty amazing at Flint Hill.
I know we're probably limited on
Totally
time,
agree.
but I'll just add one thing. We just did parent teacher conferences in the seventh grade, and my wife and I were blown away. At the end of every single conference, we turned to each other and said, every single teacher knows our kid so well. Strengths, weaknesses, ways to improve. We've really never seen anything like it. It was almost like academically they knew our kids better than ourselves.
You know, just on just jumping in because I realized I presented about our middle school program. I didn't talk about our staff, and so I appreciate all of you mentioning it. So just, you know, I had noted that we're in this. We have to do a fantastic job preparing kids in terms of their academic skills in every subject. And we have to do a fantastic job in working with young adolescents. And so we need to attract and retain people who are great at both. So people who are great in their subject and great teachers, and who also want to spend their lives with middle school age kids. That's not a large percentage of the world's population. So we, you know, that is, you know, and I certainly have to play a role in making sure things go the way that they need to, but our program is fantastic because of the adults who are working with our kids every day, see them, get them, understand them, you know, are able to do that nuance of seeing what they're capable of and getting them there gently, and not just treating everyone, you know, not teaching everyone in the same way, sort of as all of you articulated well. Heather, you had a question?
Yes, I was very interested in Brian's discussion about the experience with the math class and the flexibility to create the kind of group of kids that is, you know, willing or is able to advance. You know, my question is about, we have a sixth grader in private school right now who's doing pre-algebra, and, you know, just does that flexibility extend to also, you know, it sounds like there's a good chance that there might be a cohort of students who are on that level as well, if she were to come into seventh grade and be ready to, you know, move beyond the pre-algebra that she's already doing right now. Would that extend to the individual student? Like, you know, maybe if it ends up being that she needs to be in an eighth grade class or something. I mean, math isn't even her favorite subject, but we just wouldn't want to lose, you know, progress with that. Like I said, it sounds like there might be, you know, a handful of students also who are in that, but, you know, just in the case that it's, you know, an individual student, how would you handle that?
Sure, I can speak to it. Brian sort of touched on it. Yeah, in general, especially with math and languages where kids might be coming in at different levels, our goal is to is not to have every 7th grader taking the same thing. Our goal is to find the right course for each kid. And so we always have a pretty sizable group of 7th graders who are taking Algebra 1 honors, so who are ready for the algebra strands. Sometimes kids are ready for beyond that. And so we actually have, and so we offer geometry in middle school also. We don't offer middle school courses above that, but we do have 2 students who are going to our upper school to take Algebra 2 Trig honors this year. We have a middle school student going to the upper school to take French 2. We have someone doing an upper level Spanish. So, particularly in math, we can find whatever the right level is. So, on the topic of treating kids as individual kids, and that there are, some have real gifts and are ready for more in some areas and then not others. And so that's, it's not a completely individualized program overall, but we absolutely, in order to stretch and support every student, we have to have them in the right class. Okay, 2 more questions, and I want to transition to our students because they're really upset at being pulled out of class and being deprived of learning. I can just get that sense from them right now. Linda and then Chioma.
Yeah, thanks. So Linda Huang K. Roche, I have a current 7th grader, so she'll be coming in as 8th grade next year. So I actually have 2 questions, and the answers can be super quick. And I'm glad the students are on, because one of the questions they may be able to help with when it comes to their turn. One of the questions is about the teachers' communication, which is great to hear of how closely they follow students and they know the students. What's communication like regularly from the teachers? I understand there's parent-teacher conferences and such, but what's that like? I'm sure we can reach out, but what is that like proactively from the teacher's part? And then for my daughter, we're kind of the opposite situation from most everyone else. She's been in private school or parochial school all her life, so we're pulling her now we want to pull her from her current private school because it's just too small for her. We don't want her in such a small bubble. We want her to be in a bigger environment, but not ridiculously big. What is it like then transitioning somebody, especially in the 8th grade? I know a lot of new kids will start in 7th grade, so I think it's a bit easier to start then. What is that like then for somebody coming in the school's actually a bigger environment for her, and then also in a year where it may be a bit awkward for the student as well then?
Sure. Maybe I'll save the second question for the students, and I would just say that it's middle school. It's awkward for everybody in every way. So that's part not, you can certainly have faith in that. So let's save that second question for our students. So the first question about communication from teachers to current parents. Do you have any?
I will jump in. I find that our experience so far is that if the teacher has something that they feel like we as parents need to be aware of academically, if there's an area that I know for us, if they feel like, well, maybe Nicolette needs to focus on this or focus on that, they reach out. So it's not, I don't have to wait to find out. In addition, they also will communicate either if I see them at school or just a quick email for good things. Hey, this is, she did this and this was great. Or, oh, I had this really funny conversation with her and so they certainly are proactive, but in terms of their response, not only the teachers, but the staff across the school, it is amazing how quickly you get feedback, and your questions, your concerns, anything is met with attention and care and consideration, and you are completely involved with the school. The communication is something that I have never seen, certainly in our public school experience.
Just jump in. One thing I referenced was the open grade books. That's something that so we're in this period where we're also trying to transition and do a lot of our communication directly with students and keeping parents in the loop. And that's part of that is conveying to kids at this age that your education, you're the driver of this, you're the key person in this role. And we obviously, that's balanced. So we also have weekly team meetings where we sometimes we'll discuss if a student is struggling or needs support or there's a question about. And part of that meeting will be discussing, all right, well, what's the next step? Is this a point where the advisor should reach out to the parent, or whether this teacher should, or whether we should, our first step should be to meet with the student and see if we can, make progress there. But, it's very, it's very important to keep parents in the loop, and it's important to be, working directly with students, and we try to kind of straddle that. And when I'm referencing the open grade book, another piece in terms of their academic performance is it's not just about putting grades in there, but it's about putting comments in. So our teachers will, here's what this is, but, please come and see me to do a rewrite of this draft by next Friday. So there are tools which, ways that teachers can communicate with both students and parents through that system also to kind of keep you looped in. Let me go to Chioma.
Yeah, thank you so much for putting this together. My daughter is in 6th grade in Arlington, and so she'll be coming in 7th grade. I would be curious to hear a bit about the diversity, and not just ethnic diversity, but just diversity of students, so kids who have ADHD, for example, but are also very academically gifted, but have some of the ADHD challenges. That would be interesting to hear about.
Yeah, that's probably best for me to touch on. I would say we have, although it's only 200 students, we have a wide range of kids. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about this age group is that we have a lot of kids who look different. We have a lot of kids who learn differently. And so we do have a learning center that supports students with learning differences. And that is a very mainstream part of our program. And that actually has nothing to do with whether a kid is academically bright or gifted. And so we have a lot of students who are exceptional math students and are terrible writers, or they're really, really strong in this area and need to be stretched differently in this one, but then have this area where they're weaker, or they're really bright and remarkably immature, and that is an interesting mix. And so that is part of what middle school life is and what makes it so exciting on a daily basis. But that's a really important part of our program as well, is recognizing each student as individuals and supporting that wide range. And again, it's all different kinds of kids, and that challenge of giving kids what they need right now, preparing them for the next steps in terms of independence, which is, and I sort of half jokingly say that my goal is that kids will be ready to move out of their house by the time that they're 30. And there's an awful, everything we do every day, even at this level, makes a big difference with that. And we have students who are, especially coming out of COVID, are developmentally different than middle school kids were 5 years ago. And so they are, what our support of them looks like, what our stretching of them looks like is going to be different. And so, yes, we have lots of different learning styles. We have learning differences. We have kids are different in lots of different ways. Okay. So I'm getting a subtle and very gentle but supportive message that I need to move on to the next phase, to our students. And so anyway, thank you, Melissa, Kristen, and Brian for your help today. Always really helpful to kind of hear from other parents, people who are in the same boat. So thank you for taking the time this morning. And we're going to transition and invite our current students. Again, these are unpaid volunteers. They're not getting any kind of extra credit and no special privileges. They're just here because they want to be helpful, and they're wonderful people. So Kathleen and Caleb and Oshner are here. So I'm just going to have you quickly, if you could give your name and your grade, and something about what your transition to Flint Hill was like. And so for Kathleen and Ashna, who came in new last year, what was it like transitioning new? And for Caleb, who's been here longer, what is it like for you with a large influx of seventh graders coming in new this year? So I think I gave you 12 talking points in one prompt. So your name, your grade, and then something about the transition as a new student here. All right, Ashna, you want to start?
Sure. I'm Ashna. I'm in 8th grade, and one thing that I think it made my transition really easy is that on the first day of school, I was introduced to so many different people. I was really stressed about, making friends, and one thing that they made it really easy to do in my transition was I was able to meet new people, and I started talking to new people. So every time, we had like these certain break periods, I always had someone to hang out with, and I was always talking to new people. And I think that's really important to be able to make friendships that quickly. And, they've gotten really strong since then. So that was something that I really liked about my transition to Flint.
Yeah, thank you. Kathleen?
Hi, I'm Kathleen. I'm in 8th grade, and one thing I really liked about my transition is how easy it is to make friends, because I was, like Ashna, I was really worried about being able to make friends, but everybody was really welcoming, and you have classes with so many different people, and everybody here is so different that it's not hard to find anyone, it's not hard to find someone who you have stuff in common with. And since I had different people in every class, like Ashna, I was always able to find someone to talk to or hang out with outside of class or during lunch. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Caleb's perspective a little bit different because you've been here for a while. So Caleb, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Caleb. I'm a 7th grader. So my transition was from preschool to Flint Hill, so I probably have a little bit of a different perspective. It was I had Miss Craig for my kindergarten class, and she was really nice, and everyone just kind of welcomed me because there had been kids.
Maybe I'm sorry to interrupt, Caleb. Maybe you could speak to what, with as a 7th grader, and there are like 25 new 7th graders this year. What is it? How has it been for, what have you seen or noticed in terms of, and how does it feel for you as someone who's been here for a long time in terms of welcoming and kind of meeting new students?
I mean, I always just strive to be nice to everyone, just because you never know, the person right there could become your next best friend or something. So I always strive to be really nice to everybody. And I think the transition was pretty easy. I mean, it's just kind of like 6th grade.
Yeah. Great. I had some other question prompts for students, but maybe since I know we have some parent questions.
Brian, I know Elizabeth Deegan had a question for students.
Okay, great. And then I want to go back to the one that I punted to this area, and I forgot what it is, but I'm going to remember. Elizabeth, you can go ahead. You're muted currently, Elizabeth.
Thank you to the parents that joined. That was really helpful to hear their feedback. We have a son that is looking at Flint Hill and very much likes the school. We came the other day to see it, but I'm curious for any of the students, if you have had the opportunity to take advantage of the Learning Center, and if so, how has that built your confidence in completing your schoolwork?
So I don't think any of the three on this call do use Learning Center. So I could do a quick overview of what that looks like. So our Learning Center again supports students with documented learning differences, and so it has no impact on kind of schedule or anything else. Students all take the same classes and so on, but they are scheduled with do a one-on-one academic coaching session with a a learning specialist that is designed to help support them in their area of challenge, be it executive functioning or whatever it may be. And so that is an aspect of our program that JK-12 and throughout the history of the school has been really important in ensuring that a wide range of learners kind of has access to the same academic program, and it's really just an extension of our overall approach to trying to give every kid what they need in the moment to succeed. I know that Linda's question sounded like, and you can jump in if I'm not capturing it correctly, was about the idea about, at these grades levels, that there are downsides to having a school feel too small, which can, schools that are very small can kind of feel like I'm with the same kids each year and I'm kind of limited, and sometimes it's being limited in activities or there aren't enough things going on. And I guess sort of speaking to that point, if any of you have come from places that are bigger or smaller, I will add that one of the things that I've appreciated about a school this size is that we kind of are able to have a full, rich program with both athletics, academics, arts. Our upper school program then becomes even bigger. So, 500, 550 to have all those aspects of a high school experience that you want while still maintaining that kind of small class size and small school feel. But students, any comments on kind of how it feels in terms of school size? Too big, too small, just right? Ashna, looks like you're reaching for your mute button.
Yeah, so I came from a big school. My elementary school had about 600 to 700 kids in it. And one thing for me, I was a very shy person growing up, so making friends was not the easiest thing I could do. And when I just walked into Flint Hill, when I toured the school, I just saw it's just such a welcoming building. Like, I've been to the lower school and the upper school, and they're both so welcoming as well. And and one thing, when I learned that there's about 12 to 17 kids per class, and before I had 35 kids in my class, that was something that was, I really love to hear that, because it just meant that the teacher's focus is not just on teaching the class what needs to be taught, but focusing individually on each specific person. I've had it with all of my teachers. They've always reached out at least once in the school year just to check up with my parents or with me. And I think that that individual connection is really helpful. And then especially in a bigger class size, you don't have as much connection with your teacher. I've had some good connections with my teachers from younger years, but going into 5th and 6th grade, I never really had those. So coming into 7th grade and 8th grade, feeling that connection with my teachers, I think that really gave me, a good start to Flint Hill, and it's continued on. So I think the smaller class sizes really do help with a lot of different things. So.
And Caleb, do you want to add to that?
So I would like to add on to that, where the smaller class sizes actually helped me in math this year. I was struggling a little bit with one of the concepts in algebra. And so I set up a time to come meet with my teacher, and we sat down during ASH, which is our study hall time, and we figured out what I was thinking and what it actually was. And it actually helped me a lot. I did well on that test.
Yeah, maybe adding partly to Linda's question, what I appreciate about Flint Hill and having these different places where the class sizes change, or at least the overall grade size. So coming in from 6 to 7 and then 8 to 9. So young adolescents, I think there's, and I saw this with my own kids who've been at the school since they were very young, but they're part of what happens at this age is their social dynamics are changing, and kids are changing, and they want to be able to branch out, and they want to be able to, as they're figuring out themselves, and when are they their best self, and who do they gravitate for, and a chance for the social groups to change. And one nice thing about, our 6th grade, which might be 54 students, and many of them have been together for a long time, and then coming into 7th, when we have so many new students and a kind of a bigger environment, that they are able to as they're naturally changing, they're also able to kind of branch out and, take that meaningful risk or kind of have a chance to meet new students. And I think that's true and then going from 8th to 9th is another jump where that 9th grade class becomes, much larger than their 8th grade group, and another opportunity for their social lives to really adjust. So I think that's something about coming from a very, very small school where you're kind of with the same kids each year and that cohort goes up, is that I have seen and heard that this is a place where that transition into a slightly larger, but then also maintaining small class sizes does allow that. All right. Elizabeth, you had a question, and Kathleen, did you have something to add on this topic?
Yeah. So I came from Williamsburg Middle School in Arlington, and it was really big. I think there are at least 1,000 students in it. And one thing about bigger schools, or at least my experience, is that it's very cliquey and like you don't know everyone. And like when I came to Flint Hill, it's so much smaller and like you get to know everyone and like you always have someone to say hi to in the hallway. And I feel like it's not cliquey and everybody's just nicer to each other because everybody knows each other. Like that's my personal experience, but it's my view.
Awesome. Thank you. Other questions, maybe just one more for our students. And if not, I'll ask them something about homework. Okay. So students, before we go, maybe you can, I know one of the questions coming in, especially for those coming out of 6th grade, where if you're going to middle school or 7th grade anywhere, there's often kind of a change in what that kind of academic workload feels like. And, I will say our philosophy and our hope is that I think there's a certain amount of academic training that is really important to incrementally increase. And some of that involves homework, and some of it involves managing assignments in multiple classes at the same time and kind of figuring those things out. And we believe that if we're overloading students with homework, then it stamps out growth. So they can't be creative and curious if they're just trying to churn through homework and just slog through it. So we try to strike that balance. And in general, our students report, when we just did a survey at the end of the first quarter, averaging between an hour to an hour and a half of homework each night. But maybe each of you can kind of comment on what your kind of homework experience has looked and felt like. And some it does depend on how many classes you're taking, level of those classes, and so on. So who would like to? Caleb, you want to get started? Well, Caleb, then Kathleen, and then Ashna.
So I'm a student athlete. I play baseball out of school, and so that takes up a lot of my schedule. But what I found helping me, because I'm also in all the honors courses I can be, I found that time management has really helped me, like setting up a schedule when I do my homework, when I go get changed for baseball, like knowing when I have baseball has really helped me. And it's just kind of helped me work out, okay, I have to do this assignment in here, then I can have a 5-minute break, but then I have to get back to work and go do that assignment.
Yeah. And you found overall so that's talking about a sport outside of Flint Hill. So along with the Flint Hill sport, so doing baseball outside. So you felt like that has been manageable. Okay. Kathleen.
So when I was first coming to Flint Hill, I was really worried about like the load because coming from a public school, I thought it was going to be like a big difference and it wasn't manageable. And I was completely wrong. It's definitely a step up from elementary school, but if you manage it, if you learn to manage it and you're doing all of your assignments, like you're focusing solely on that and you're not like watching a show on the side or talking to someone on the side, it's really manageable. And I'm also a student athlete. I do travel soccer. So even with that, if you're trying to stay on top of it and you're looking at your Husky Hub and you're finishing your homework when you get home from school, or you're not procrastinating it until right before bed, then it's definitely manageable.
Thank you. Ashna?
For me, I'm also a student athlete and I play multiple sports outside of school and they differ on the day. And so sometimes, like, definitely time management when you're coming up from any elementary school, whether it's a lower school or any public school, coming up to a middle school is definitely a step up. I think just like Kathleen said, I thought that there would be a lot more work, but they definitely ease their way into it. Obviously, gradually over the year, it builds up, but they teach you how to manage your time and how to, group your homework. And, so like sometimes if I have a class that'll go until 9 o'clock, I'll try and get most of my homework done before that. Or if I have something right after school, I'll know that I have to do it after I come back. So really just that time management factor. And I feel like usually when I get homework, I'll get a little bit for every class that I have in that day. Sometimes if I have a class Monday and then I have a class Wednesday, I have 2 days to do that work. So I'll definitely spread it out. If I know that I have homework that's due the next day, that way it's easier instead of having, that one night where, you don't spend any time doing homework, but, the next night you spend like 5 hours doing work, right? So I think definitely, knowing what your schedule is, whether you're an athlete or not, or if you play an instrument and you have rehearsals, just knowing how to balance your schedule is something that you really learn how to do in 7th grade. And now coming into being an 8th grader, that's really helped me because it is still a step up from 7th grade. And I take all honors classes this year. And, I felt like it would be an overload, but, now learning from what I did last year, I've definitely learned how to keep my schedule right, and it's definitely really helped out a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your perspectives on that. And again, while these are three exceptional students, these are the kind of skills that are arguably the most important in our program, and they are things that we intentionally help them practice and make suggestions, and sometimes they're ready to take those suggestions and sometimes not. And those are, kind of that same juggling act we're doing as parents, but those are, that's also in terms of managing and planning, and our kids are in different places with those, but it's a very intentional part of our program. So I know, Emily, you have a question. I worry if I don't turn it back over to Jordy, I may not be invited to this again. So I do want to watch everybody's time. So I can certainly follow up if you want to add your question into the chat. I can try to answer it there. I want to thank Caleb, Ashna, and Kathleen for sharing today, and for being awesome. And you all can head back to class and back to your learning. Thanks for your help.
Thank you all.
And now turn it over to Jordy Izzard, our admission officer in middle school.
Yes, and thank you so much for making me out to be that warm, friendly person, Brian. I do want to just start by saying I'm not standing outside. I am showcasing this wonderful building that we all have the privilege of being in. We opened it 2 years ago on September 7th of 2020, and I welcome anyone who has not actually been to the building to come visit for a tour anytime. It is delightful to see so many of your faces, though, that I have already had a chance to meet. And thanks for coming back. We're thrilled to have everybody new here, too. And really, this is a time, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the presentation, but this is really a time when we are all getting to know you and you're getting to know us. And we're really helping you all to find that hopefully this is one of the top best schools for your family. And can everybody see the presentation okay?
Yep, Jordy, I can see it. It looks
Okay.
like it's on the last slide.
It does. Okay, sorry about that. Hold on, let me go back. How's that?
Looks great.
Okay, super. I'm gonna expand it. And yeah, so we really appreciate the partnership, and what we want to do is make this process as seamless as possible for you all. What I want to just talk about briefly, because I want to be sensitive to everybody's time, is two things really. One is the application process itself, and then a little bit of a macro perspective on how the overall admission cycle works for the year. But just in terms of the process, it's really pretty straightforward, and we are here to help you every step of the way. You will want to go ahead when you're ready and apply online. And certainly no need to wait until all the documents that I'm about to discuss are ready. Going ahead and applying online lets us know that you would like to move forward and allows us to partner with you in helping through that process. There are a total of 6 items that you will need to pull together. I'm going to start with the 7th, though, just to eliminate any confusion at all. 3 years ago, Flint Hill was making the SSAT, which was once a required independent school entrance exam. It was made optional, and the pandemic did help to speed that up a little bit, but we were certainly headed in that direction regardless. And so please, no need to focus on that. There are 6 items, though, that we will want to work with you on. The first 3 being academic related. And let's just, as an example, say that your student is a rising 7th grader. The first thing we'll want are all of the 5th grade 4 quarters or 3 trimesters in a transcript, as well as iteratively this year's transcripts that come up in October and in January. The second of those 2 academic pieces are the 2 teacher recommendations from a math and an English teacher. Those links become available once you submit that application I talked about in the beginning, and you would want to respectively send each of those 2 links to the math and the English teachers, and through a confidential process, then they will submit that form back directly to Flint Hill. The last of the 3 academic pieces is a writing sample. It does not need to be graded. I know the word graded is up here. It certainly may be, but it doesn't need to be. And that will just allow us to better understand where your student is, what their current writing style is from this semester, so we can support them where they are. The last 3 pieces, 2 of those are also links available once you apply. One is a candidate questionnaire. It's a 1-pager that your student can fill out and submit. And then there's one for the parent as well. And then there is a final interview, which is nothing scary at all, no tests, no quizzes. You can assure your student of that. It's very much a conversation, much like this that we're all having with you, but with more intentional questions that we ask for equity of all families to really get to know your student better through your eyes and their own. So those are the 6 components. And then moving on to the more macro perspective of our admission cycle, so you understand kind of where we are in that process. You are in a very good place. We started our application, we opened our application window September 1st of this year. As it is now November, we are working with you and all families toward a January 20th deadline. And what we promise families who complete this application process I just described by January 20th is a decision on March 3rd of next year. And then families who are admitted, that is our favorite day of the year on the admission team. It's called Decision Day. We give out a lot of good news. And for those families who are admitted, we ask that you have 2 weeks to deposit $1,000 toward overall tuition for the following year to ensure a seat for your student in August. The final binding date, the contractual binding date, is June 1 for the following year. And at that stage, you have one of 3 different payment options. You can pay upfront in June, everything. You can pay twice a year in June and December, or you can pay over the course of 10 equal payments through the year from June through March of the following year. So that's the macro perspective. My name again is Jordy Izzard, and I work closely with my esteemed colleague Rico Reed and encourage all of you to contact either of us. Please continue to attend all of these events. We do have other events coming up. We have an in-person event on December 1st, another online event on January 12th, I believe. And on the 5th, we have another event that's very popular online in the evening for our arts and innovation event. So we encourage you to attend all of these, mainly because at each event, you will be introduced to different voices and different perspectives be them teachers or parents or students. So you really get a holistic view of the school. Please also feel free to reach out to either of us for a phone consultation or a virtual meeting. I know many of you already have, and thank you for that. And please come in anytime for a campus tour. Please join us on social media or view our blog. And the application itself is online, and feel free to submit that at any point. So with that, I'm, Jennifer, gonna, I think, pass the baton back to you. But thank you all again for being here.
Thank you very much, Jordy. Yes, thank you all for spending your morning with us. As Jordy mentioned, I see many familiar faces. You've been at events, you've been applying and working with the process with us, and we look forward to continuing that process. For those of you just jumping in and getting started, and this is the first thing you're engaging with us, we look forward to continuing the dialogue with you. As Jordy mentioned, there's a variety of different ways to meet with us, come see campus, hear about our different programs, schedule meetings. And so we look forward to hearing from all of you. And we will also, I know there's a couple lingering questions here. So we'll be in touch with everyone who still had questions to be sure that we connect with students, other parents, that we answer your questions or get you in the right place. So keep the questions coming moving forward by email, phone, or meetings. And thank you so very much for your time this morning. Thank you, Jordy, Patrick, Brian, for the great presentations. Really appreciate our students being here, and really appreciate all of you that are attending, and hope you have a great day.